You may have wondered how Revit can leverage your client's designs. In the past, we've used such things as bubble diagrams to conceptually visualize floor plans, and we've used block diagrams that also refine that space a little bit better. Revit can be used to do the same thing. And at the same time, what you're doing is you're creating information that can be used within the Revit model. So in order to do this, there's a couple things that we need to look at. One is called mass elements. Mass elements are used primarily by architects. And what they do is they usually will use mass elements to develop the size and shape of a building. They use them for large forms, usually whole buildings. A lot of times they're focusing on the overall shape and what the footprint of the building is going to be. And at the same time, they will attach building data to those mass elements. Mass elements, though, for us are a little bit different. We can use them on the interiors to define spaces before we even begin to draw walls. This allows us to use a mass element for dynamically sizing what we need for rooms and things. There's two types. First one is called a mass family, and the other one's called an in-place mass. They're both just a little bit different in how they think and operate. First of all, the family mass comes directly out of the Imperial Library. The one that is in there, it's called the box family mass. It's great for regular sizes. It's just a box, and therefore you can use a 12 by 12, 10 by 10, or whatever regular size room you can use. The other one is called an in-place mass, and that element basically is for those odd spaces that are not regular in shape. There are times when you're going to have an angled wall, or you need a curved wall, and the place mass is a good one to do it with. However, how you use it is by creating a profile, and then you extrude it. And after that, you can modify the faces and the edges to form whatever shape you need. Let's take a look by getting into a Revit drawing. We're going to take a look at how this works, first of all, with using a family mass. To get going with using a family mass, what we need to do, first of all, is go to the Massing and Site tab. You click on that, and you'll see here that there's what's called Place Mass. Click on that, and you're going to get this message, and it tells you that you are enabling what's called Show Mass Mode, because basically masses are kind of invisible when you use them, and we have to make them visible. So we'll go ahead and hit Close. The other thing that happens is that you're going to be asked to load some sort of family mass in the project because none exists, and this is typical when you use the Revit template. So we'll hit Yes. In the Imperial Library up here, if you notice, we have a number of folders, one of which is called Mass. Click on Mass, and you'll notice that there's a number of already predefined shapes here that are available to you. The one that we're going to use probably most often is Box. If you look over here, you get a little preview as far as what it looks like, and all you have to do is click Open. Now what happens is that it's now part of our project, and it comes in, and it looks like a box, and just go ahead and click. And as you click, you'll see that there's another one that shows up right next to it. So you can keep on placing these things anytime you need to. I'll just click one more time, and then I'll come over to Modify. Now, if you click on these things, you're going to notice over here in Properties that it's pretty big. That's because it's made for architectural use. Now let's take a look at what an in-place mass does. Remember, an in-place mass, actually you're drawing inside your project. So I'm going to come over here and click on In-Place Mass. And it's going to ask us for a name. You can give them names, but usually by default, Mass 1 is just fine. Go ahead and press OK. And what happens is that your tab changes up here. Notice that you have some drawing tools for the first time. I'm going to just pick up a line tool, and you'll notice a blue rectangle that shows up. That's basically the surface that we're going to use to draw this mass. And I'm just going to start drawing here. And you'll notice as I draw, I'm going to kind of zoom in. I get temporary dimensions. So if I need to draw something 10 feet, I can do that. And then come down, do 10.6. I'll come over, and then I'll just come over here and make that shape. Now, once you get done with the drawing tools, and I got all sorts of drawing tools here, so I can add in curves and everything else, you hit Modify. And then you click on the shape one more time. And you'll notice that there are little shape handles here. But the most important thing is to come up to the ribbon under Form and hit Create Form. And what you want to do is create it as a solid form. And automatically you'll see it change. Notice that it's blued. You have arrows here that kind of tell that some sort of change has been made, but you're not done yet. You have to come up to the menu again on the ribbon and hit Finish Mass. By doing that, what you've done now is you've created an in-place mass, and here is your family mass, and you can see what the differences are. Basically, in order to start out a block plan, you can use one of these two, and probably in combination, depending on what your drawing is going to look like, where you'll probably start off using the family mass up here first. And that's pretty easy to do because most rooms are kind of rectangular. For the oddball, where you might have an angle or a curve, you can use the in-place mass. Some things to consider when using mass elements in Revit. You have viewing options that sometimes can be issues. Just remember that mass elements don't display by default. In other words, they're not going to show up with walls unless you turn them on somehow. And what you need to work with is use Show Mass Mode, which is on that menu, in order for them to show. Masses also don't print and cannot be exported easily. And there is a way to make masses show up, which is through visibility graphic overrides. Last, think about this. It's possible to use mass elements in a block diagram. Best thing to do is remember that you can use a combination of both family mass and in-place masses in order to create a block plan. You'll wind up using both.